We're gonna start off with you, KB. You got a movie for me?
Listen, so out today on HBO Max and in theaters is the highly anticipated film Dune. Now, I will say this is Dune Part 1. There is a Dune from 1984. This is a remake and its own take. It is based on a very long book that is an epic sci-fi fantasy. And that book is by Frank Herbert, I believe. And so this particular saga and iteration of it, because it's billed as part one. I'm almost positive we'll get a part two, but we'll get into that. But basically, it's the usual. Hey, y'all, the world is going to end. Here's an uprising. There's a savior. I mean, I guess that's the best way I can put it without spoiling it. It's starring some of your faves. So Timothy Chalamet is the lead in this film. He is the heir to this House of Atreides. And, his father is portrayed by Oscar Isaac. His mother is portrayed by Rebecca Ferguson. Both, I think, do a fantastic job. Now, I will say one of my biggest issues with this film and the press tour that they're doing is they got our girl Zendaya all the way out here. And if you are looking for Zendaya to be in this film, child, she in about 30 seconds. So, I mean, it is very clear that it is going to have a sequel. I think that there's no other way. Also, just based on how lengthy this book actually is, it definitely needed to be at minimum a 2-part film. And so they're building up for her to have a more significant role in the second film. You can tell that. But child, as much press as she's doing right now, I'm like, my girl is barely in it. Truly, it's really kind of his story, and it's really his journey and the journey to him meeting her, I guess, is kind of the best way to put it. So he plays Paul, and he keeps having these visions, and he's what I would like to call a seer. So he sees a lot of things, and come to find out, he's not a seer by accident. So when he's having these dreams and they come to fruition, he's like, oh, what's happening? Come to find out, his mama made him that way. This is her doing. This is what she wanted. She wanted to have a son. She wanted to basically have someone who could be potentially the savior, so to speak, in the story. She wanted to birth someone who was in line to be the savior. Now, I have not read the book. I did not see the first one. So in my mind, watching this film, do I actually believe that Paul is the savior? Honestly, no. I think we're building up to something else. I think that they're putting a lot of stock in us, believing that it might be Paul. But honestly, I think it might be someone else they reveal in the second movie, and who knows. But basically, him and his family go on this journey. And there's a lot of classism that's addressed in the film, kind of socialism that's addressed in the film. It is visually stunning. I will say that it is a gorgeous film to watch. Did I feel like it was a bit too long? Yes. But knowing how long the book is, I'm kind of like, at this point, can you really trim the fat? Probably not, particularly when you're making a part two. But you know what? I think the performances are really solid. Timothy Chalamet gets a lot of internet praise. I feel like, they are thirsting after this young man. And I think he did a really good job. I think Zendaya did a really good job for the moments that she was in it. I think Rebecca Ferguson, quite frankly, really is, in my opinion, the star of the first part. I think that, like, her performance as a mother who has a lot of secrets, that we won't dive here because we're not trying to spoil it, but as a mother who has a lot of secrets and who is navigating life, with this man by her side who is not actually her husband, and what that means in this world and what that looks like, and
Wow, right.
not having a certain level of protection. I think she's pretty BA. She's teaching her son how to be a leader, and she's doing so in a lot of ways by example. And so I actually think she's really good in this.
So did you like this one?
So you know what? I actually did, beyond it being too long, because literally at one point I really was like, what time is it? Like, how much longer do we have going? Because I do feel like the first act was really intriguing, and then we kind of hit a lull with that second act. And then by the third act, you're really engaged, and then it's done, right? Then it's like, haha, just joking. You're going to have to wait till part two.
Yeah.
But
so
I was like, well, why we didn't trim some of the fat in act two?
So you don't really need me. You don't really need me too much, because what most of what you said is I'm there. I think I do like this futuristic look that they put here in this film. And it is the same old, meaning that you get scarce resources. Somebody's going to come in and dominate a planet and take over the land. And but there's always somebody. There's always a resistance somewhere. There's the low life people are still there, and they're going to fight to make sure that the world is going to be equitable. And I like that story. I think that story has agency today. We all can feel that, and you're like, oh yeah, I've seen that before. I understand it, and we live through some of it. I think there were three dark skinned black folks in the movie. And I won't say what they all do, but I will tell you one of the things that bothered me is that two of them were very critical to what happens in the film, but they're not critical in terms of being the main character, so to speak, in the film. And I felt that for me reminded me of life in general. It was just like, yeah, the black folks are in there doing their thing and helping out and doing that. But then
well,
where
Reggie,
are they?
let me ask, you mean they weren't critical enough to be top bill? Is that what
Yeah.
you mean? Like, okay.
Yeah. And that, to me, I don't want to give away anything, but that they're not there. What, at least, that they're not there. That they're not there is what I might say. So it's problematic. So it does make you want to see what happens in the second part. Your point about Zendaya not being, I'm like, come on, you guys. Zendaya is not in this film.
She's not.
They
Like,
put
no.
a hologram in there, and that's it. She was in there for like a half of a hot second.
Yes,
So we'll have to see what happens. It is too long, for sure. It's too long, and I don't like, even though it's a long story, I don't like how they cut it up to make me get to the next film. I'm intrigued. I'm totally intrigued, but I don't like where they stopped.
So you know what, Reggie, to your point, I will say this. I agree that when I was watching it, I was like, but do we need another white savior? Like, that was actually my first question when they initially are like, Paul, look at all that Paul can do. He's a seer, etc. Which is why I think, having that initial thought, I think they're going to go in a different direction in the second film. Because we tired of the whites saving the world, quote unquote, so to speak, in films. Like, why it always gotta be like that? So
Katya,
I love that. It's my jam. I love 1984 one with David Lynch. A lot of people don't know Kyle MacLachlan literally was picked. He auditioned out of thousands and thousands of people to play Paul. This launched his career. He went on to make Blue Velvet, David Lynch, and the rest is history. So this movie, I feel like David Lynch was ahead of his time when he made the 1984 version. Sting in a Speedo? Hello? It's a little cheesy. And I feel like Dennis has the benefit of modern technology on his side. For what David Lynch did in 1984, it was he used the top of the technology. It probably looks cheesy right now, but Dennis has the advantage of having that technology, which I think it's not fair to compare the two films, because it's like, it's like a Ford to a Porsche. That's what we're talking about here, the difference. I knew her role was going to be small because her role picks up later. But her role is important, and it sets up the narrative and the journey that Paul is going to go on. And I wish they would have marketed it that way, because people who are fans of hers are coming to see her. They're not coming to see all this other stuff. The sci-fi geeks like me are in it for all the other drama. Do you know what I mean? I'm a sucker for this. Like, you know what I mean? Where you have Harkonnen and House of Atreides. I love how they set up the scene when House of Atreides is there, and they're showing they're in this land, and they're like, this is us. Like, we're letting you know what I mean? And I love that whole who's got more swagger. And I love the casting. even though a lot of our faves didn't have big roles, but they looked good. Like they looked like they were the hierarchy, the royalty. I mean, I'm just one of those people. If we're gonna say these people are the royalty, we gotta look like royalty. We gotta have the costuming. We gotta have the pretty faces, the handsome faces, and all of that. His mother definitely has. You have two different, I think, in Paul, and I think that's why Charlemagne was a good choice to play Paul, because you have two different train of thoughts on between his parents of what will make a good leader. His father's focused on the technical, tactical, and him being a good fighter, and also learning how to negotiate, right? His mother's on some all other stuff where she wants him to be a visionary and predict and all this other stuff that I don't want to say to give it away. But you can tell because his father has a hierarchy. He's leading the charge on what he's learning, the weapons training, all of that, and the whole idea. And the journey is really about Paul defining and trying to figure out what makes a good leader, and at the same time wanting to avenge the death of his father and his loved ones. So he doesn't have that guidance, that security blanket anymore. And as this thing continues, he's going to have the new people, I don't want to give it all away, are going to help him navigate that, because the things that he has been told and the things he's beginning to see are like night and day. And how do you stay centered and at the same time still honor your heritage? And at the end of the day, he can't escape the destiny, because that's who he is. And also these other folks haven't quite figured out that he's out here, because they think the Harkonnens are like, oh, we got this in control of all of this. They haven't figured out that he's put together, he's about to make a comeback. So I think that's the beauty of it. I do think it was smart, because again, the first movie, it was a lot to take in. And it's one of those movies that you have to watch more than once, and you're like, okay, I get it now. Do you know what I mean? Because it's so much. I do like the fact that he left you hanging. He gave you that cliffhanger, because as you're leaning into it, you're like, oh, damn. So there's definitely going to be a part 2, and we definitely coming, because we want to know what happened to our old boy and what's happening to Zendaya. I love also how the Black people that were in it were photographed beautifully.
Oh, they were.
And they also had urgency, because sometimes in these movies, we be looking a little ashy. I mean, I was like, ooh, Black people, sand, and gray costumes. It's a lot. It's giving a lot, right?
How do you say Black people in sand?
I'm just saying, right? But kudos to the cinematographer. Even like the eyes were so piercing. Beautiful. And for what we did do, we weren't the suckers. We were the heroes.
No, there's no doubt about it. I mean,
the suckers. And I'm with you, Reggie. I'm hoping that that gets expounded as we go into. For me, Dune is for people who like epic things that are big, and just that whole good versus evil, and we need a hero to save us, even if he might be a white savior. That's who the film is for. It's not that deep, the plot, like KB said. It's good versus evil, and the bad people are super bad, and they gotta go. So we got the comebacks gotta be better than the setup. So the people that are looking for, I don't know, these deep character developments and all of that, I'm like, did you not read the precedent? Granted, the book is really, really big, but I'm like, stop trying to make certain movies that are super clear and telling you what they are into something not. If that's not,
I will say this though, Katya, is that I think they did it. I mean, no, they didn't go so deep into these characters, but their character development is not shabby. It's not like it. So I think that they did a good job. I like this too. I just think where I disagree a little bit is that I don't mind the cliffhanger. I just don't mind how they did the cliffhanger. I mind how they did the cliffhanger, and I mind because it was so long that you didn't give me. You could have cut something out and did something better.
I was thinking that at first, but looking back on it, he respected the material. Like he understood that there is a group again, right? It's like The Hobbit. You have a group of people who have read these books, generations, and they have a certain expectation, right? And I'm not saying that you should need to read a book in order to get the journey, but there is a fan base that you do kind of like have to keep in mind a little bit, right?
I hear you.
That fan base, I don't know if that fan base feels as though this movie lives up to it. But I do think during this time, when we think of Hollywood movies and we're all like, what happened to this is the thing. Now, whether or not the thing works for you, that's a whole different conversation.
All right,
I was in the middle of the movie theater and I was like, this is my jam.
All right,
This is
KB chomping at the bit to jump in here.
Well, see, I'm just thinking now maybe my theory, because again, I didn't watch the first film and I haven't read the book. Maybe my theory may be wrong because I was hoping the direction, if he wants to stay true to the source material, right? Because I was thinking in my mind, like, why not make Chani the savior, you know, who is Zendaya's character versus having it be Paul? And like, why are they so interconnected and what does that mean? But you know, I don't know. I'm just thinking now, based on your comments about the first film, I'm like, well, if he's doing this for fan service, if he's doing this for the fan base, then I might be wrong. But I'm hoping that it's Chani so that we can, you know, see
a role. I don't she's definitely a very vital piece to this thing moving to the comeback. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you got.
But I'm saying to you is, in a way, it's kind of smart because even if you didn't like it or you weren't all the way there, your butt's gonna come because you're gonna want to know, is she gonna play a bigger part? How is the whole fiasco gonna end? Is the dude in the mud bath? Is he gonna be Dunzo while he's floating around? Like, how are we ending this?
No, you're right. You're 100% right. We all are. I am definitely gonna go check it out. I think I liked it a lot. And as opposed to loved it. I mean, because you said that's your jam. I think I liked it a lot. I probably didn't love it, but it's definitely a watch it for me. Katia, watch it for you?
Oh, absolutely.
And KB?
Yeah, watch it. And if nothing else, give props to Jason Momoa because I thought he did a really good job as
well. But we can't talk no more, you guys, because we got at least one more movie to get in. Is that you're absolutely right. I'm so glad you mentioned that. But there's so many other people I want to mention too, because Javier Bardem.
Yes.
I mean,
I will say this, shout out to the makeup department because I like when he first came on screen, I was like, is that Javier? And then I was like, wait, is it? And then I went back and I was like, oh,
we didn't recognize him. Like it's almost like you needed to freeze it and you'd be like, oh my gosh, that's him in the freaking thing, you know?
Yes. All right, so we done with that after we've done an hour and haven't been together in a long time. I let it go on too long because it was just it is worth talking about, and we want to talk as long as the movie. So we did that. Yeah, right.